Welcome back to Across the Diamond.
Episode 2,
Here we go. I'm your one of your two of your co-hosts, Ryan McKinney.
and I'm Andrew Manjares, and this is episode 2 of Offseason Grades AL Central Edition.
Yes, sir. So before we get into the grading the off season and talking about some news,
Okay,
I have a question for you.
okay.
I was listening to a podcast earlier and they were talking about, oh, first off, can we rep the this shit came in today. Check it out. The Evan Carter jersey, baby. Come on now.
Missed
Come
all of
on
last
now.
season, but I hope he
Oh,
probably
he's
gonna
gonna
get
be a
the Rookie
dog.
of the Year this year.
He's
Still
gonna
has
be,
his
set
rookie
set the record for most doubles
eligibility.
in the playoffs, by the way, brother.
World Series champion, by the way.
Anyways, they were redrafting the 2022 draft, right?
Okay.
And they were discussing who they would take number one in the draft. I'm not sure if you're aware who the two options were, but in 2022, Jackson Holliday was taken first overall.
Okay.
And the argument for the other player being involved was now the number one prospect in baseball, Roman Anthony. So with that being known, and what, we're almost 2.5 years in the future, who would you take first overall?
Is it only between those two?
It is between those two
Okay.
because no one else is gonna. Kumar Rocker was drafted
Yeah,
third
Kumar
overall,
Rocker
by the
was
way.
third. Yeah. So what? I don't. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Roman Anthony was taken that high either.
No, I think he was taken 89th.
89th. Okay.
I'm not completely sure about that, but if I
So
remember
in
correctly,
present day, okay, so we're talking about present day. Say
yeah.
we
If
kind
the
of
draft
already
happened
know,
today,
okay, and we kind of already have like a little bit of a history of Jackson Holiday getting brought up last year. Struggled a
yeah,
little bit, but got his second call up. He played a little bit better for sure. We have Roman Anthony that's still yet to make his major league debut, but still, like you said, the number one prospect in baseball. So the information that I'm getting there, I just think Jackson Holiday is still more valuable. He plays the middle infield. He still has that lefty stick, and I just the Matt Holiday bias, I would say. I would think that how much he's come up in the game of baseball and being brought up, in Major League Baseball as a kid. So you kind of already had that feel for what Major League Baseball was going to bring to the table.
right.
Knowing all of that, I still don't think I would change. I think Jackson Holiday goes number one today, tomorrow, yesterday, and in the near future, no matter what. So I think that's going to be my answer.
Interesting. Okay.
I'll I'll shoot
Um,
it back to you if you disagree 100%.
I if I were to take the number one overall pick, looking back, Jackson Holiday did go underslot. He went $2 million under the
Oh, yeah.
underslot.
I was
So.
also I didn't want to factor that in. I just wanted
Yeah,
to
I'm
kind
not
of
going to
base them off
factor
of
that in
players.
either
You know what I mean?
because Roman
Yeah,
Anthony wasn't taken until I believe round three, damn near,
yeah.
or in the third round, something like that. Um, I would draft Roman Anthony.
Okay.
I think his ceiling is a little higher. I think Jackson Holiday's floor was raised in terms of value because he was a shortstop,
Yes.
but because of the ordeal in Baltimore with them having a top two shortstop in baseball right now,
And Gunnar
who's
Henderson.
only 23,
Yeah.
and Gunnar Henderson, he's been moved to second.
I can see that. So basically, what you're saying is him as a second
Now,
baseman may
I,
not match the value of Roman Anthony.
the argument is what's more valuable,
Okay, I
a
understand. I can
corner
see it.
outfielder who
Yeah.
can play second base, or not second base, I'm sorry, center field, or a second baseman who can play shortstop. Um, I think Roman Anthony's ceiling, they're, by the way, this is no jab at Jackson or
Absolutely.
Jackson Holiday. They're both, I think, going to be elite. Um, I think Roman Anthony's ceiling is a little higher. I think he can give us somewhere in the range of 265, 270, walk at a good clip to have a 380, 390 on base percentage, and slug in the 550s with 30 plus homers a year. Whereas I think Jackson Holiday's ceiling is maybe 295, 300, walk at a 400 clip, and maybe edge his way to a 20 homer season, provide 480, 500 slug. I think they're both going to steal a decent amount of bases. And defensive value wise, I think they're about the same,
Yeah.
given their positions and skill set out there. So I personally would take Roman Anthony, but I mean, it's a toss up. Whoever you want, whoever you want.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that. I just think if in comparison of both players, I'm factoring in variables and I'm thinking who's more of a gamble on who's going to pan out in the big leagues. Is it between Jackson Holiday and Roman Anthony? We haven't seen any type of sample size of Roman Anthony in the big leagues.
No.
Hopefully he gets caught up this year, which I'm more than likely he's going to. He's probably going to get a couple of games out there for sure. I'm thinking more September call up ish. I don't think he's gonna
Nah,
be up.
I think he's gonna be up early.
I don't know. I don't think he
I think
fits
he's
on
gonna
that
be
team
up
as of
early.
right now. I think, they're gonna run out with the guys they currently already have. But hopefully I'm wrong. I would love to see Roman Anthony play sooner than later. But in terms of that, I genuinely think Jackson Holiday is less of a gamble than Roman Anthony. But like you said, it's a toss up. But that's just my
Yeah.
personal opinion.
And then I guess the third option, just going into deep prospects, well, not even deep, would be
Yeah,
Chase DeLauder if he could stay healthy.
yeah. Taste a lauder for sure, man.
He's
I
a
mean,
dog, like
yeah, for sure.
6'4", shortstop, picks it, exit velos are out of this world. He's gonna be good too, but I think it's between Roman Anthony and Jackson Holiday. So I just wanted to start the episode with that question right
I mean,
there.
if we're only talking about position players, sure, but I mean, number three overall picks definitely scream my name too, man. I love me some Kumar Rocker, and I'm sure you
Yeah,
would as well.
I'm not taking a pitcher
Yeah,
first overall, by the
I
way,
don't know,
in
man. I
any
don't know.
draft, in any draft.
I like Kumar Rocker.
Yeah,
I'm a pitcher, man. I like pitchers. You know
I
what I
was
mean?
surprised when Skeens went 1-1, and
Fair
he's
enough.
generational.
Fair
But
enough. Fair enough.
yeah,
Yeah, man. The future Major League Baseball, especially with that
it's in a
2022
great
draft.
hand.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Great
And
hands.
it's man. This year we're probably gonna see a full run of Jackson Holiday, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a Roman Anthony full run as well. But Chase
Absolutely.
Lauder's knocking on the door as well. So definitely from that 2022 MLB draft, we're definitely seeing a lot of talent come up.
Yep. Kumar Rocker's gonna be in the starting rotation, I think, for us on opening day as well. So
Absolutely. Well, good question, man. Well, let's get back to the script here. Let's try to go over these AL Central teams, starting with before that, man. Let's get into the recent news of what just happened
with Roki
yesterday and the day
Sasaki.
before, exactly with Roki Sasaki, man. I'll go ahead and let you take over.
Pretty much what we found out is that he's down to three possible teams, pretty much has eliminated everyone else. You could see, I could honestly only see two teams. One team, you know that meme where it's like the army men and the clown? I think the Blue
Yeah,
Jays are the
yeah,
clown in
yeah,
this
for sure, for
situation.
sure.
Um, but the Blue Jays are putting their foot in any pond of water
Yeah, we
that'll
went over that in
accept them.
last episode, man.
Yeah.
They're trying, man. They're
Yeah,
definitely
I
trying to.
respect it,
Yeah,
and they're a top three finalist, so good on them.
yeah, for sure.
But I think it's really a toss up between the Padres and the Dodgers,
Yeah.
and I think the intriguing aspect on both sides is the Dodgers are obviously a super team,
Hmm.
and they have all those Japanese players over there. Of
Yes.
course, Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto. Um, but I think he wants to be a guy. I think he wants to be not a guy, I'm sorry, the guy.
Yeah.
And I think the only way he finds that route is going to San Diego.
Yeah.
So it's going to be real interesting where he finds up
For
or where
sure.
he ends up.
Well, hopefully, about tomorrow, we're recording this episode on January 14th, so maybe January 15th. A report came out today that the Dodgers are going to be meeting with them with a lot of their players in
Yeah.
attendance. So hopefully, we get some news based off of how that meeting went. But I mean, you still have you Darvish over there with the Padres, who Roki Sasaki really looked up to between him
Yeah.
and Masahiro Tanaka. So I mean, when you said that Roki Sasaki wants to be that guy, I mean, we got to think about it, man. With the Padres rotation, you have Michael King, he's a free agent after this year. You have Dylan Cease,
Dylan
who's
Cease.
also a free agent. So I mean, they have a lot of money tied up with a lot of the position players. And then if you want to talk about Darvish as well as Musgrove, they also have a lot of money tied up with those guys as well. So I mean, if I'm Sasaki and I look at the Dodgers rotation and I want to be that guy, it kind of looks like Yamamoto is ahead of me. You still got Blake Snell, who just signed in the free agent, that's ahead of me.
5 years.
And then you have Glass now too. And
Glass now.
obviously he can't stay healthy that well, but when he's on the mound, he's definitely in that ace conversation. I would like to see him pitch a lot more innings before I can solidify him as an ace. But you can't,
Stuff wise.
yeah, stuff wise, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
He's definitely has ace quality stuff. But I mean, the Padres seem really enticing as well. But it just seems to me that he's going to go out there to the AL West, which is already a stacked division. You know what I mean? You already
NL
have
West.
Corbin or NL West. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
NL West with Corbin Burns, and he's going over there to Diamondbacks, man. So it looks like the we already knew that the NL West was already a competitive division, but those
Maybe the best in
yeah,
baseball.
for sure, man. With those that type of pitching quality over there, man, second to none. It looks like, to be honest with you.
Might not be an easy night on the mound.
Oh, for sure, man. Any of those rotations, honestly, man. I mean, just a quick
Outside
thing
of
about the
Colorado.
yeah, like you know what I mean. Just a quick thing about the
Right.
Diamondbacks. You still have Gallen on a contract year. We'll see how well he performs. I've always been a big Brandon Pfaadt guy. I think he's really developing into one of those good quality two threes. Hopefully, maybe one day he'll blossom into a solidified one. But as of right now, I'm comfortable with him as my two or three. And then obviously you have Murrow Kelly as well, man, who's going to go out there. He's going to get outs, and on any given night he may go, six scoreless, and no one would be surprised. So
Absolutely.
I know West is definitely cooking out there.
All right, well, let's get to the AL Central and see what they're cooking up then.
Yeah, just one more honorable mention out there in the AL West this time with Seattle. It looks like they took a flyer on Donovan Solano for a 1 year deal worth
Flyer, this is a
3.5.
solidified statement, brother.
I
He's
don't
one of the
know,
best
man.
hitters in that
I
lineup
don't know,
now.
man. I don't know. I mean, I
Donovan
would have
Solano can hit anywhere, man.
sure. I mean, good bat to ball, but we've seen a lot of good hitters go out there in Seattle and really,
And die.
yeah, exactly. So, well, hopefully, I mean, I like Donovan Solano. I mean, I've always liked his game, good bat to ball, but looks like Seattle went out there and got the second baseman that they needed, who I think is going to play second base every day. But it was interesting. His contract is he has a $1 million in bonus if he gets a certain amount of plate appearances. So I'll definitely be able to look out for that.
Hopefully they don't pull a Pirates and cut him short for ABs.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'll let you take control. Let's start with the first team in the Central
All right, so the first team, we're just gonna go in order of
placement.
placement in the standings. I got my list here. So the Guardians, great year by the way,
Yeah,
92 and 70 this season. Um, they had a great finish to the year, took it all the way to the ALCS. I think they really performed a lot of predictions preseason. Stephen Vogt, winning manager of the year, of course, just a well-deserved. Great team, balanced lineup, one of the best bullpens we've ever seen.
oh, for
And
sure,
then
man.
that rotation is that rotation. So let's start with some of their additions. They signed Carlos Santana to a 1 year deal to come in to play first base. And good on them for this next move. Shane Bieber's coming back. Good on Bieber as well. One
Yeah,
year, 14 million. I know he's not going to be back right away with the TJ, but when they get him back, that's going to be a huge addition to that rotation.
absolutely.
Um, and then we have to break down this trade for Josh Naylor. They acquired Slade Ciccone in a 2025 competitive balance round B draft pick for Josh Naylor. So Ciccone, decent player for the or prospect for the Diamondbacks. Um, I think he was drafted in 2023.
Okay,
Um, Solid pitcher. He's been brought up on. I'm sorry, he wasn't drafted in 2023. He got called up in
called up in
2023.
2023, but he's still a young guy,
He's
man.
Yeah, he
25 years
struggled
old.
early. Has had some starts under his belt, and I'm excited to see what the Guardians can do with his stuff, you know. He struggled early on in his career, but again, he's only 26 years old or 25 years old. He's going to be 26 this season, so we'll see what that pitching lab can do for him.
I
And
mean, I
yeah,
pulled up his savant real quick, man. I mean, nothing really eye popping about it, but once you get into that pitching factory over there in Cleveland, you don't know what kind of monster you're going to turn into. You know what I mean? Just kind of
exactly.
names kind of out of nowhere, which seems to be a lot of bullpen arms, but especially out there in Cleveland with the Guardians ball club and all those pitching staff out there. But is the only really thing worth noting on his savant is he's in a 92nd percentile in walk percentage, so the guy's going to throw strikes, man.
Yeah,
He doesn't really necessarily throw hard. He throws, well, not hard in today's league. He sits about 94. So I mean, it'll get the job done. 94, still 94, but it's definitely not. It's not loud, But we'll
yeah,
go ahead and see. He throws four pitches, mainly relying on the four seamer. He throws about 55% of the time. Mixes in a slider, a change, and a curve. So like I said, man, to trade someone like Josh Naylor, especially for someone like Slade, I feel like the Guardians wouldn't make that trade unless they saw something that they can develop. So
exactly.
I'm gonna go ahead and let the Guardians take over with that trade, and let's see what happened. And good riddance to Josh Naylor. I'm sure he was very loved out there in Cleveland. But
We'll talk about him more
yeah,
when we get to the NL
yeah, for
West.
sure, man.
And then they also acquired. So there was actually a trade into another trade
Yeah,
where they gave
three
up
team
Andres Jimenez and acquired Spencer
Spencer
Horwitz in
Horowitz.
that trade. And then they went ahead and flipped Spencer Horwitz and acquired Luis Ortiz, who was the headliner, with Josh Hartle and Michael Kennedy. Um, so Luis Ortiz, I think, is really going to be a guy in Cleveland.
Yeah,
I think the Guardian or the I'm not the the Pirates were trading from below uh bulk in that rotation with all
Yeah,
their young guys, Bubba Chandler, Paul Skeens, Jared
Jared
Jones,
Jones.
Mitch Keller.
Yeah.
Um, so I think they felt like they could find a way to flip a decently young guy and add some bat to their rotation. But Luis Ortiz is I think is going to be really good for the Guardians. Pitched 120 innings this season. Um, has a real nasty stuff. Um, and I think he pitched to like a 3.7 this season as well. I don't know exactly, but he was solid out there in Pittsburgh, and I'm excited to see what the Guardians, of course, do to another pitcher. Um, so we will see. Any thoughts on Luis Ortiz?
I mean, Luis Ortiz kind of been a name that's been floating around for the last few years over there in Pittsburgh. I mean, his stuff's loud. He throws pretty hard. I mean, but we kind of already touched base on the pitching factory over there in Cleveland. So to get a guy in the caliber of kind of already, I mean, I think it's decent if not good stuff over there from Luis Ortiz. That they're, the Guardians are going to go ahead and try to take that stuff and make the best of it. I mean, it's a good pickup. I don't really. I mean, that top of the rotation is kind of already solidified with when Shane Bieber comes back. You still have Tristan McKenzie, who kind of down year definitely got sent back to the minors last year and finished the year off there. But Tristan McKenzie's still there, and then Gavin Williams is back from injury, who we already saw what he could do in the 2023 season. And then you still got Tanner Bybee right there as well, who honestly with all the injuries that they had last year when Shane Bieber gone down, Tristan McKenzie not really being what he is, and also Gavin Williams hitting the IO. I mean, that's already a 1, 2, 3, 4. So taking that pressure off from Luis Ortiz, who kind of had to be not necessarily that guy over there in Pittsburgh because it's not really competitive down there. But I mean, you slide him into the 5 spot, and I think he gets the job done, in my
I
personal opinion.
mean, they could slide him into the rotation or bullpen. He has
Yeah,
experience in both. And
yeah,
I'm sorry, he had a 3.32 ERA this season. So good stuff in
yeah,
terms
man,
of
solid
ERA
stuff, man.
department. So we'll see what they do.
And I
Um,
kind of want to touch base on the other prospect that they got with, during that stretch of
Josh
early
Hartle.
next year. Yeah, Josh Hartle,
Josh
who
Hartle is
was,
a good prospect.
yeah, man. I mean, he was just drafted this past draft at the Wake Forest, and if you know anything about college baseball, man, Wake Forest, it's a pitching
Pitching
it's a pitching
factory.
factory over there, man. I mean, he pitched to a 4.41 ERA out there in college, but I'm looking at this, man. He was born in 2003. I mean, he's 21 years old. He still has plenty of time to go out there and be part of the Guardians organization and try to blossom into a good arm out there. But third round draft pick definitely is no slouch. So to be able to flip Horowitz and be able to get off of Andres Jimenez's bulk contract to get those types of quality arms if they see something in, I think it's a good trade.
I mean, and speaking on Josh Hartle, the year before this past college season, he pitched to a 2.81.
Okay,
Um, absolutely
competitive
shoved,
competitive
absolutely,
division that he's in as
yeah.
well.
And absolutely shoved behind their guy Rhett Lauder out there, and we saw him pitch well in Omaha as well. So he can do it on the big stage. And I think his stuff is going to develop well in that Guardian system. Big strikeout guy. I think he struck out almost 11 per nine in college. Um, and I think he's going to be good. We'll see what he turns into. Still a young kid,
Yeah,
and a lot of growth potential to be had in his game. So
definitely, man. If I'm that guy, man, to be able to go from Pittsburgh to Cleveland, I seem to be pretty happy over
yeah,
there in Pittsburgh. It's really clogged up right now, like you said, with all the pitchers that they kind of have right now. So that's about all the additions. I mean, one addition that you really want to add, which is kind of a loss at the same time, but you do get to dump that majority of Andres Jimenez's contract, who he
huge
signed.
dump
Yeah,
for the
I mean,
Cleveland.
Cleveland's still kind of a small market team, so to be able to hand off all that type of salary is good for the Guardians for sure, man. But to
Exactly.
highlight these losses now, man. So you lose Josh Naylor in that Slade Sony trade with the Diamondbacks, man. You lose Alex Cobb in free agency. He goes to the interdivision. He goes to Detroit, which he wasn't really valuable to the Guardians. Kind of brought that veteran presence, but you lose him. You non-tender Connor Gillespie. I mean Connor Gillespie. I mean past giant. I mean that's really nothing really to say on Connor Gillespie, man. I hope nothing but the best for him. But then you lose a bullpen arm that's kind of been a part of your organization for a while, but he elected free agency as well in James Karinchak. So it's kind of they already have a very good solidified bullpen, but I'm surprised James Karinchak hasn't been picked up by any other team yet, man. His stuff is pretty good. And then you look like your game two starter out there in the playoffs this past postseason, man, and Matthew Boyd, who definitely
Game
got the
three
job done.
starter.
Yeah,
Or game two, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
yeah. So you lose Matthew Boyd there, but your account already went over on who they're getting back in that rotation. And then Andres Jimenez, obviously, and then you lose another bullpen arm in Eli Morgan, which I believe was in a trade,
They
if I'm not
traded him to
mistaken.
the Cubs.
Yeah,
Yes.
for cash, I believe.
Yep.
So you lose that guy as well.
Trading for a bulk for cash
Yeah,
too. Eli Morgan, that bullpen, obviously one of the best
yeah,
bullpens
for
we've
sure,
ever
man.
seen. So, how would you grade this offseason for the Guardians?
I don't necessarily know how. I mean, I have to definitely keep a grain of salt. The Cleveland Guardians are a small market team, but you lose Josh Naylor, and then you bring in a veteran just like Carlos Santana, who definitely crushes lefties and still can go ahead and pick it out there at first base. He's one of the best first baseman defenders as of last year. I mean, you bring back your ace, man. I mean, I'm not going to stray away from the fact that I think Shane Bieber's an ace, man. So obviously he's hurt, but Shane Bieber's back, and then you pick up a couple of good players, man. And you got to think about the system of their team. I mean, you got Travis Mazzana that's coming up. I mean, you got a lot of prospects over there in Cleveland. So, I mean, it seems like Cleveland definitely wants to give their prospects a run. They've always been that way. So, I look at this team, man. I think their lineup is semi decent. You still got Jose Ramirez, who obviously is the solidified best third baseman in the game. And I don't know if he takes on a captain role over there in that Guardians clubhouse, but he's definitely a guy that I would want on my team for sure. So in terms of just the moves on paper, taking out those types of variables in the Guardians, I mean, you I really think you give credit where credit's due. I really think that Andres Jimenez drop and dump of that contract really is good for them. So I'm gonna give him a solid B, man.
Yeah, and just to bring in or piggyback on what you were saying, I think the biggest move they made was bringing back Shane Bieber and dumping that Andres Jimenez contract.
Yeah,
Shane Bieber, obviously a good guy,
yeah.
stated that he wanted to stay in Cleveland,
Took less
and they
money to
did
be
the
there, man.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, and he took a deal where he knew he wasn't going to get paid as much as he could have, maybe going to a different team, but he knew he was going to be able to compete, be the one for a team, and then possibly make more money in this coming up off season. But I'd like to say that Cleveland is a small market team because of their location, but not because of their owner.
no, man.
Their owner pinches pennies over there. Um, he's worth more than the Yankees owner, to put it in perspective. David Blitzer has a shit ton of money, and to put it lightly, and I know they work in between, or their GMs work under these parameters of working similar to a small market team. But if they wanted to, they could easily go out and sign Shane Bieber after this year to a big
Yeah,
contract, and find a way to fill out the rest of this roster and really make it a World Series team. Because I think their ceiling right now with this team is similar to last year's.
yeah,
I don't know if they can make a World Series run. Um, I think their GM was fantastic this offseason.
yeah,
Getting rid of that Andres Gimenez contract, getting in young, controllable, cheap talent in Luis Ortiz and Josh Hartle, and we'll see what they turn him into, like we said, and then signing a veteran like Carlos Santana, who I think production wise is going to give you the same, if not more, as Josh Naylor.
yeah,
Really good with the glove over there at first base. Switch hitter provides depth to that lineup. He might not slug the same as Santana or as a Naylor, but he's going to get on base more.
yeah.
And the Guardians find a way to pinch singles and doubles and walks and score their runs that way and rely on that bullpen. So, um, I would give their offseason similar to the Yankees and Red Sox last year, where it's a B plus leaning to A,
Yeah.
or last episode where it's a B plus leaning to A within the parameters that their GM is given. So shout out to him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the Cleveland's roster. I mean, on projected on their bench, you got David Fry and Joaquin Noel, who can go out there and be a lot of big league starters on any other type of ball club. It kind of shows you what kind of depth they kind of have over here in Cleveland. You still got Lane Thomas. I mean, I think Lane Thomas is a good baseball player. He's gonna go out there. He's gonna play really good center field defense. He's gonna run into a few homers here and there as well. So, I mean, yeah, man. I mean, you still got Stephen Kwan, who's I think is an 80 grade tool hitter. So I mean, to have that guy on the top of your lineup as well as someone who can have good bat to ball, ran into a couple of power last year, and he draws walks as well, man. So I'm really happy, and I'm really look forward to seeing what the Guardians can do this year. I'm projecting definitely another first place finish over there in the Central.
I agree with that. I think they're gonna run away with the Central again this year.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll move on to the second place team. A
Yeah.
surprising team, if you want to get into it.
Yeah, man. So we got the Kansas City Royals, man. Who saw that coming out of no one could project that, man, at all.
Let's tell the audience who saw that coming. You and I did.
I mean, yeah, I mean, during the offseason, we saw like they were active, man. They were active during that
And
offseason.
we kept texting each
And
other. This Royals team can
yeah, the
make the
Royals team's
playoffs.
nasty, man. Like they're just kind of they brought in guys who know how to play baseball, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? They weren't going to blow you
Absolutely.
away and no superstar, but they were going to work together as a team and they were going to get the job done. And that's exactly what happened, man. So the Kansas City Royals finished 86 and 76. They did make the playoffs. They ended up sweeping the Astros, who were my co-host's World Series pick last year. Um,
Which is crazy, but
but yeah, man, he's definitely high on over there on the Astros. But the Kansas City Royals went over there on the road and got the
no,
job
that
done.
was the
Oh
Tigers,
no,
brother.
my bad. The Royals went over there and swept the Orioles.
Orioles, yeah.
Yes, they swept the Orioles. We'll get into the Tigers in a minute, but yeah, they went over there and swept the Orioles. And low scoring game, 2-1 on both games, if I'm not mistaken. Behind jobs with Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo in that
Cole
wild
Reagan's
cards.
looked great,
Yeah, he did
man.
for sure. Seth Lugo didn't look bad either, man.
Yeah,
I think it's more of a testament to the Orioles, though. I mean, the Orioles should have took that series, but
I
Kansas
agree.
City went over there and they handled business. And then they go over there and they face the Yankees and they unfortunately drop it 3-1. But I mean that if I'm a Kansas City Royals fan, the future's looking bright for me, and I'm definitely satisfied with that season. But in the what they've done in the offseason so far is they bring back Michael Walker, who was definitely a big addition to that team last year and provided a lot of value. And they bring him back on a 3-year deal worth 51 million. And then you bring back your deadline acquisition in Michael Lorenzen on a 1-year $7 million deal. Who, I mean, Michael Lorenzen is the guy who can do some spot starts. He can be in that rotation, and he can also be a long reliever in the bullpen. So, I mean, Michael Lorenzen's valuable to a lot of ball clubs. So you bring him back, and then you take a flyer on Kevin Biggio on a minor league deal, who still seems like he hasn't figured it out in the majors yet. But I'm close. I'm close to giving up on Biggio, but hopefully with those young guys around him, and being around Bobby Witt and Jonathan India over there, maybe he can figure something out. And speaking of Jonathan India, they Cincinnati Reds shipped him off with Joey Weimer for Brady Singer. So they get off on Brady Singer and they bring back a desperate need over there in second base to fill that hole, and it looks like a leadoff man to set up Bobby Witt over there and Jonathan India, and then you also bring in Joey Weimer. I mean, he's good. I mean, he's definitely going to get some plays over there. He's definitely going to get some at bats. But that's about it for all the additions on the Royal side, and I'll let you take it away on what they've lost.
So they obviously lost Brady Singer in that
Yeah,
trade, and then they lost Yuli Gurriel, veteran presence, who was getting run in the playoffs.
yeah,
Absolutely
definitely.
crazy.
His bat to ball still there, man. I mean, regardless of how old he is, he can still hit baseballs, But they
They
lose him.
lost Tommy Pham, and then they lost their biggest piece of all time, I think, which is Will Smith, which is why I think they succeeded so much this season.
You think so? Do you think Will Smith brings that veteran presence over there in the bullpen, or what?
Yeah. I think he just brings winning energy, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he's a two-time World Series champ. I mean, he definitely knows what it takes to get there.
And then they lost Robbie Grossman, Garrett Hampson, Paul DeYoung, and Josh Taylor. So not a lot of key guys that they lost, really.
Not really.
Obviously Brady Singer, but they parted ways with him to fill a gap in that lineup,
Yeah,
bringing in Jonathan India. Um, so let's get into some of these additions and how they might affect this team. Obviously, two of them were obviously on the team. Um, so they brought him back in to fill the role that they were already in. So they should be comfortable doing that and provide that same level of performance that the Royals need in terms of getting through the regular season because it's a grind.
yeah,
And both of those pitchers provide meaningful innings.
yeah.
And then let's talk about their big one. How do you
Jonathan.
think Jonathan India is going to fit in that lineup, and what do you think his role is going to be?
Thing about Jonathan India, man. I mean, he was good over there. I mean, former rookie of the year. I mean, he's had a couple of down years, but going into this year, I mean, the Yankees are trying to grab him. A lot of teams are trying to grab him this year at the trade deadline. So obviously he's being looked at as a very valuable asset over there. Plays good defense. get over there and swipe an above average amount of bags. So I mean, hitting right in front of Bobby Witt and which I'm not mistaken, man, I believe Jonathan India walks at a decent rate as well, and he's a high average guy. He gets on base just any means necessary, and he's fast. So I think his role over there at second base, I mean, I think he's going to be doing the exact same things he was doing in Cincinnati, if not a little bit better over here with Kansas City. I think playing with Bobby Witt right there. I mean, sure you had Ellie De La Cruz there and Matt McClain there for a while over there when Jonathan India was in Cincinnati, but playing with the caliber of player of Bobby Witt, who is going to be projected to win MVP damn near every single year for the rest of his career if he keeps up playing this way, I think Jonathan India is extremely valuable for this ball club, and I really think it might bring him. I think Jonathan India on the Royals is about a 5-win player. I mean, maybe that's a little bit high, but
Five
I think
wins. Wow.
I think Jonathan India is really good, man. I really think he's gonna fit really well over there
That's
in
bold.
Kansas City. I mean, let's just look on what his F4's been on the last couple seasons.
While you look that up, I'll let you know. He does walk at an extremely great clip. I think he was
Yeah,
in the top 95th percentile in baseball. Um, doesn't whiff, doesn't chase, strikes out at a below average clip. So that's going to be solid for a leadoff guy or wherever they plan to put him in the lineup. And then is a decent defender over there at second base. So I think he's going to fit well. And a lot of people might say, well, he was playing at Great American Small Park. Um, but if we look at park factor, the Kansas City's ballpark is right below um, the Reds in terms of park factor.
yeah, man.
So I don't
I
think
mean,
it's going to affect him too much.
if you're going gap to gap in
And
Kauffman,
he's a
it's gonna play.
yeah, he's a big
Yeah,
gap to gap guy.
yeah.
So I think he's going to work out great.
And to go back on my take, it looks like his rookie year he put up a 3.4 F4, and 2024 he put up a 2.8 F4. So it looks like he's gonna double his projection of last year based off of what he finished with in WAR last year. But honestly, man, I really think it's in the cards, man. If not five, I'm assuming at least, honestly, man, 3.5 to 4. I really think Jonathan Indy is going to play really well out there in Kansas City. I really think that when I saw that, I thought it was a great pickup. And even moving forward, man, I think the more I think about it, man, in the way that I think how he fits this team and in the way that they play baseball, I think Jonathan Indy is a perfect fit.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good on the Royals then.
Yeah.
5-win player Jonathan India.
That's my hot take for
There's
the
our
day.
first bold prediction
Yeah, that's my hot take for the
of
day, man.
the channel. So there we go. All
Yeah.
right, before we get on to the Tigers, I think we'll take a quick break.
Okay.
All right,
Just
actually,
finishing those, yeah,
yeah,
just
go for it.
finishing that, man. I mean, to rate the Kansas City Royals, I mean, I don't really know how to grade them. I think I don't want to give them a failing grade. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna give them like maybe about a C minus C. But I mean, they they ran what they had last year. I mean, you add Jonathan India and you kind of give these guys who they already have that were kind of banged up last year, like in Michael Massey and stuff like that. And Michael Garcia kind of is just taking steps forward. It seems like every single year. And then you give Vinny P back, which is pretty cool. Vinny Pascantino, who was banged up last year with that thumb injury. So you still have your captain in Salvador Perez. So I mean, you definitely have some holes in your lineup, but they honestly really don't have the best of system to try to make a run at that trade deadline. But they're still a fairly new team, man. I mean, no one expected them to be playoff contenders last year, so I don't really think anyone's expecting them to be playoff contenders this following year. I mean, as long as you're realistic with yourself. But yeah, man, I'll give them a solid C. I don't really see what else they could have done.
I'll give him about a C plus as well.
Mhm.
I think the right steps for them is just continuing to take steps forward, which is what they did with the Jonathan India trade,
Yeah,
and bring back Michael Waka. Um, so as long as you keep taking steps forward, even if it's half a step after the season they just had, it's gonna elevate your team a little bit. So
yeah, man.
good on them, and we'll see if they make any other moves this offseason. Um, but yeah, so far I'm gonna give it a C plus.
Okay, that's fair enough, man. Well, hopefully the Royals are out there to repeat, man. Playoff baseball is definitely there. Better when you get to see Bobby Wood
The
Jr.
Royals are in it.
Yeah, for sure, man. So we'll switch on to the Tigers, who honestly are definitely, if not my second, my third favorite team in the league, man. And I really like what they did this past year. um, they finished 86 and 76.
Talk about shocks, by the
Yeah,
way.
man. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they go in there and they make the playoffs. I mean, they had like a 2% chance to make the playoffs going into September, and they sneak through there with their solidified ace across the league, man, and the SP1 going into 2025 and Tariq Skubal. And you go in there and on the road and you face Houston, who I misinterpreted last team when we were talking about the Royals. It was the Tigers, but you go in there and you go out there and you put on a show, man. You have Andy Ibanez out there in game 2 going against Josh Hader. Um, against your back. I mean, who's going to pitch game 3 for you guys, you know? And you go out there and you really close the door and you send Houston home. I mean, there's not really that much of a notable addition. I mean, you add Gleyber Torres, who I'm very familiar with, on a 1 year deal, 15 million, and then you bring in Alex Cobb from the Guardians on a 1 year, $15 million deal as well. So, I mean, get on the Tigers, what you just mentioned. I mean, if it's even if you're taking a half a step forward, you're still trying to improve. So, get on them.
Right. Um, and again, they're taking small steps forward after a surprising season with a good farm system
Yeah,
um, at their disposal. They're setting themselves up for maybe some success if they're in the race come trade deadline. Um, and then we'll see what Glaber can do in Detroit. I know he's had some back and forth seasons over
for
there
sure,
in New
man.
York that you're very familiar with.
Absolutely.
Um, but I think in addition that we should just talk about that we obviously can't put on there is just a full season of Jackson Jobe.
Yeah, man, for
Came into the
sure.
season as the best or second best pitching prospect in baseball behind maybe the greatest pitching prospect we've ever seen in Paul Skeens. And if it wasn't for Paul Skeens, I think Jackson Jobe's height meter would be way up there. I mean, this guy's electric. Fastball reaches triple digits, slider from hell. And he could literally be Robin to Tariq Skubal's Batman. Um, so I think that's one of their bigger additions too. And then obviously, if we look down the line of their top prospects, Max Clark coming up in their system,
Yeah.
Kevin McGonigal, Gonigal, Bryce Rayner, and then obviously Jace Young, who provided some thump to that lineup.
Yeah.
This season, we'll see how he progresses.
I
Eh,
think with the addition of Gleyber Torres, though, I don't think you're really going to see Jace Young. I think they're going to kind of put him back down to the minors and let him progress a little bit.
I think
I
he's going
mean,
to play third.
what about Colt Keith? Do you think it's between either Colt Keith or Jace Young?
I
Because
think I
I
think what
mean,
they're
Gleyber's going
doing
to play every
is
day.
I think they're finding a way to possibly move off Spencer Torkelson and
Wow.
fill out that lineup with Glaber, Jace Young, and Colt Keith.
Okay.
And then they're obviously trying to find their shortstop too, because I think they're completely done with Javier Baez, which is good on them. And I don't know if Trey Sweeney is a long-term answer. He definitely was the short-term answer, and he could provide something for them. He obviously was good in spurts this season. Unexpectedly too. Good for them to find him. I think he was a definite help to their playoff push. But obviously they're looking for a guy to fill out that shortstop role. And I don't know if they're gonna move Cole Keith over there. I don't think he has the glove to play shortstop. Um, uh, but they're gonna find a way to win. We know AJ Hinch is their manager, one of the best managers in baseball.
Yeah,
So, with that rotation getting a boost with Jackson Jobe being a part of it, and now a veteran like Alex Cobb who can give you solid innings,
for sure, man.
um, I think they took a little step forward this offseason, and I'm excited to see how Tarek Skubal pitches again this season. I mean, I had him as my Cy Young favorite coming
Yes,
into
yes, you
last
did.
season,
Definitely.
and he excelled.
Yeah,
Um, he
anybody's expectations. I mean,
he
who would
he
think? Yeah,
surpassed my
yeah,
expectations.
for sure,
Triple
man.
crown, arguably the best pitcher in baseball this past season, behind him and Chris Sale. Um, and if he could have another season like this, even 90% of this season, I
You're
think that
still
puts the
looking at a Cy
Tigers in a
Young
great
finish,
spot.
man. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of touch base, basically, kind of with already what you said. I mean, you brought up definitely a couple of key pieces, but I do want to highlight their lineup a little bit better, man. I mean, I think Parker Meadows is gonna blossom into a great player, man. I think Parker Meadows definitely has the tools to be an all-star level type of caliber player out there in Detroit, and obviously, I mean, you and I know each other, but the audience really doesn't. But I'm a huge Riley Green truther, brother. I
Yeah, you
love
are.
Riley Green. I think Riley Green is an amazing player, man. I mean, he's 24 years old, guys. Like, Riley Green is 24 years old. Like, he's not everybody's Gunnar Henderson who's going to put up those level types of numbers at 23 years old. But Riley Green, definitely keep a lookout what Riley Green's going to go out and do out there in Detroit this year, man. He already has that playoff experience now. He kind of already has, like, 2 3 years in the big leagues, and now you're blossoming into, this is my job now. You know what I mean? Like, you finally kind of set in stone. It's like, I play Major League Baseball. I belong here. I mean, all those jitters kind of go out the window. So with a lot of pressure, like, not a lot of pressure out there in Detroit, and you Riley Green, who I think is your best player next to the guy I'm gonna get into next in Kerry Carpenter. I mean, with those four guys in the top of the lineup on Fangraphs projections of their lineup, I mean, you got Parker Meadows, Gleyber Torres, Riley Green, and Kerry Carpenter. I mean, that definitely plays. I mean, it's definitely better than a lot of what other teams can say. I think that 1 through 4 is really good, and then you get to
Let
the
Kerry
back
hit
half.
lefties this season.
Yeah, man.
Please.
I mean, he's a
Please give
DH.
him
I
a
mean, all
shot.
he's out there to do is hit
Give
baseballs,
him a
and
shot.
he hits baseballs well. And even Matt Vierling, I mean, he's a little bit the older guy on your team, but Matt Vierling's an everyday player on a lot of ball clubs. I mean, definitely had a great year out there in Detroit, and definitely helped them make that playoff run to begin with. And then Colt Keith is projected to be their first baseman, so it looks like Torkelson isn't even here. But hopefully Colt Keith plays into something. I still think you let Torkelson get one more run. I mean, he was barely drafted in 2020. He's a lot younger than a lot of these other prospects who are getting run. And then Jace Young looks like they're going to be projected their everyday third baseman. So we'll see how he develops. I don't think he's quite ready yet, but I mean, if they feel confident, who am I to judge? I'm not a GM or anything like that. And then Trey Sweeney, I think that's their biggest question mark in the lineup. Like you said, he shows spurts of being good, but I mean, you don't really know what kind of player Trey Sweeney is. But anything's an upgrade from Javier Baez, who's the worst qualified hitter in the league, if I'm not mistaken. If not the worst, definitely down there. And yeah,
I
man,
think that was Tim Anderson.
yeah, for sure, man. Both
Oh,
feet
he wasn't
were
qualified.
past.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I like what they're doing out there in Detroit. And then to go over their projected rotation so far, I mean, you already touched based on Tariq Skubal. Skubel's going to go out there. He's an ace in my opinion. So Tariq Skubal is leading that staff. And then we saw a little bit of Reese Olson. He got banged up towards the end of the year. Wasn't
I
really
really like
available.
Reese Olson.
He
I
wasn't really
really like
available
Reese Olson.
in the postseason. But Reese Olson gets it done, man. He's only 25 years old. I think Reese Olson's a great pitcher. He's not going to blow you away with anything, but what he does do is he commands the zone and he throws strikes. And then, like you said, you bring in Alex Cobb to be your number 3 starter, a veteran presence who's going to help all those young guys out. And then Casey Mize kind of falls in the same category with how I feel about Spencer Torkelson, man. Casey Mize kind of had a more of an unfortunate run. Just Torkelson's never really been injured. He just isn't performing very well at the major league level. But you can't say the same about Casey Mize. I mean, he's been injured a lot, man. He's really been injured a lot. I know you kind of followed his follow up through the Clemson, who
Auburn.
was, yeah, or Auburn, my bad, Auburn, both orange, sorry. Casey Mize, so he's number 4, and like you said, Jackson Jobe is your 5, man. And Jackson Jobe's 22 years old. He'll be 23 in the middle of the season. And Jackson Jobe, you've seen him in the playoffs. I mean, you make your debut in the playoffs. I mean, that kind of tells you what kind of guy you are. So, yeah, man, definitely look out for those types of
For the
guys for sure,
Tigers.
man.
I think the
Yeah,
Tigers are better than the Royals, by the way.
yeah, I don't even think it's close, to be honest
I
with you, bro.
think they're better than the
And even
Royals.
their bullpen, I mean, you don't know anybody in their damn bullpen. I mean, maybe because of the playoffs, but I mean, no one really was looking out for Tyler Horton. Tyler Holton, MVP voter, by the way. Um, you got Will Vest out there. Obviously, you saw him in the playoffs. Nasty. Jason Foley's been nasty. He's been that dude for a few years now. His stuff is electric. And then looks like they threw Kenta Maeda in the bullpen. He's obviously getting older, but if he can fill in that long relief role, pitch 2 3 innings every couple of days, I think that's as good as a long relief arm that you can take a flyer on for sure. So yeah, man, I don't even think it's close. I
Who do
think the
they have as their
Tigers,
projected closer?
uh, Bo Brisky,
Bo Brisky is going to be the
mm-hmm.
closer. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Nasty.
they
By the
have
way,
three
what a
closers
name.
projected. They have three. It's between Tyler Holton, Jason Foley, or Bo Brisky.
It should be Bo Brisky.
I mean, it should be, but I mean,
Yeah.
Jason Foley's still there,
When
so
you
I
have a
think
revolving
Jason
door
Foley
of
is going to be.
talent,
I mean, yeah, you
anyone
can
can
run it
close
out. I
out the
mean,
game. Yeah.
projected line with 2 lefties coming up in the bottom of the ninth or
I
top of the
trust
ninth. I
anyone
mean,
in their bullpen damn near.
give me Tyler Holton or just play matchups. And obviously, you touch base on how good of a manager AJ Hinch is. So, I mean, look out for the Tigers, brother. Look out for the Tigers. The Tigers are a very good ball club, and as far as their offseason, they didn't lose anybody. A lot of those guys are still pre-arb, and you add those two guys. So, I mean, if you don't lose anybody and you add two, valuable MLB players who are solidified MLB players, I mean, give me a B plus all day. To be honest with you, brother.
All right, well, let's move in.
Well, what about your grading?
Oh, for the Tigers,
Yeah.
I'll give it a C plus as well as I did for the Royals. I think
Okay.
they're just taking small steps forward to continue to compete and get better, let their young talent develop, and they're
Yeah.
not blocking anyone. And that's what I love to see teams do. Don't block your young talent from progressing,
Yeah.
and add vets that can raise your ceiling or raise your floor of the team and possibly ceiling.
Yeah.
So it's a great job by them. Um, I
If I'm
kind
not
of we know
mistaken, I
that
don't
they're
think they have a TV deal either.
yeah, and we know that they're kind of attached to Bregman. I don't think it makes sense for them to
Yeah.
sign Alex Bregman. Um, so we'll see what the future of this offseason
Do you
holds,
think
but
Santander makes sense for this lineup?
I don't think Santander does either.
You don't think he can plug in and play first base? Because you said you want them to get off of Spencer Torkelson. I mean,
I
that's an
don't want
option.
them to get off Spencer Torkelson. I think they are.
Okay.
I think it's already like
Well, if
set in
you are
stone,
trying to
damn
get
near.
off of Spencer Torkelson, I think Anthony Santander. I think he fits well in this club. To be honest with you, man.
I just don't think he fits plays in Detroit. He's a big homer guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That ballpark's big, and I'm not going to a go out and pay. Let's say it's a short term due 2 years, 50 million for a guy who if he doesn't hit 40, he's not going to provide value for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think he will hit 40 in
And he's kind of
Detroit.
too far gone, man. You can teach a young kid how to walk, but it kind of seems like when you get towards that later top of your career, you really don't see these guys learning how to walk as best as you see these young guys doing. And honestly, Anthony Santander, I mean, you hit 44 home runs, you barely OPS 800. I mean, it just seems like you just automatically know what the problem is. He doesn't
Yeah.
walk, he doesn't get on base. So
He's a one-trick pony.
yeah,
And this is no hate to
now
Santander. I
Santander is
think
a
he
great
fits.
player, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's great and he would elevate any lineup. But I think for the price and what the Tigers are trying to build over there, I don't know if Santander
I don't,
is a
honestly, I
great
mean,
choice.
let's think about the remaining free agents. I don't think any of the remaining free agents. I mean, you could take a flyer on Pistol Pete. I mean, you talk about how big Kaufman is. I mean, that power is going to play regardless of what
Yeah.
stadium you're in. But I mean, like you said, I don't know if that's the direction they want to go in trying to pay. I mean, you go from Santander to Pistol Pete, which kind of seems like they're similar AAV players simply because Pete Alonso plays first base. But it looks like the total contract value is about in the same range, at least what they're asking for. I think Pistol Pete's definitely going to get a little bit more, but I don't think it makes sense either. So I think this is what the Tigers are going to roll with going into 2025. I think maybe they'll pick up a bullpen arm here and there, or maybe a little role player, or claim John Birdie, a player of his caliber off waivers. But I don't see them making any other moves this for the remainder of the offseason.
Alrighty then. I guess we'll swing into the Twins, who, if
We
I
don't
may,
even
I'd
know
like
how to
to
talk about the Twins.
voice my frustration from a team that I
Yeah, bro.
love. Um, I'm a huge Rangers guy, but the Twins, my dad's from Minnesota, so I follow the Twins greatly. If there was a Spotify Wrapped of my MLB watch time, the Twins would be top three every year. I love their major league talent. I love Royce Lewis. I love Byron Buxton. I love Joe Ryan. Um, I loved what they did with their draft pick this past season in Kalen Culpepper. I think he's going to be good out of Kansas State. And Andrew knows how excited I was when we drafted Wyatt Langford, but he also understood that I thought Walker Jenkins was a top three talent in that draft in 2023.
Yeah.
And he's their number one overall prospect. I think he's going to be a stud. Um, and they have so much talent to compete, and their owner goes out and says, "I want to cut cost," which doesn't make sense to me at all. They could be such a good team. They could run. They could be blowing the Central out of the water every year with their talent that's under control, with their rotation, with their bullpen. And every year it seems like the Twins have a solid enough um farm system where if they need to, they can make deals come trade deadline. Where if they need to, they could let a guy walk that might be out of the bidding price. Like they let Max Kepler walk. that's fine because we know Emmanuel Rodriguez is going to come up and be a stud for them. I think if he could stay healthy, he's going to be better than what Max Kepler provided. Um, so I'm just really frustrated with how this team's rolling because I thought their door was open, especially with the established arms in their bullpen. And when they signed or got Pablo Lopez, uh, and they had Pablo, Sonny Gray, Joe Ryan as their big three, I thought that was a time that they could take over the Central, and they just haven't capitalized. I mean, missing the playoffs last year, I know they deal with injuries. I know Byron Buxton's made out of glass. I know Royce Lewis is made out of glass. But their talent is good enough to where they could carry those guys to the regular season. And we saw what they did in the 2023 postseason. I mean, they had the Astros on their heels.
Yeah.
Royce Lewis was a bona fide superstar almost. Everyone was saying, "Oh
That's
my
someone to
God, is
fall in love
he
with
a
Royce Lewis, man.
top 10 player in the league?" Um, after that postseason, and they ran over Toronto.
Yeah.
Um, and then they come into this season and they didn't do anything productive, and it cost them, and they missed the playoffs. And now it's looking like their owner continuously wants to cut costs. I've seen reports that they might trade Pablo Lopez, which is fine because he was bad this year. Um, but
But I mean, who replaces
his
Pablo
contract is
Lopez?
solid,
Who
and,
replaces Pablo Lopez in this
and
rotation though, man?
I guess
Zebby Matthews?
their rotation probably would be Simeon Woods, Richardson, Joe Ryan, Zebby Matthews, um,
Maybe Ober.
Bailey Ober, who's solid. That's a
I mean,
great
you have
three too.
Festa, I suppose,
And David Festa, yeah.
and then Louis Varland. But I just think like Pablo Lopez is definitely like, besides Joe Ryan and maybe 2024 Bailey Ober, I don't care that Pablo Lopez had a bad year. I still like. Didn't he
It
just finish
happens.
a top Cy Young candidate the year prior? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like Pablo Lopez is a really good pitcher, man, and he's a gamer as well. At least all the reports I've read, I've never heard no one say anything bad about Pablo Lopez. And I think that's the best word to describe him. When I look at Pablo Lopez, I see a gamer, dude. Like I know he loves playing baseball. I know he loves pitching. So I mean, I don't even know. Like if I'm the Twins GM, even if I'm a Twins fan, it's like, why would I want to trade Pablo Lopez, brother? Like he's our one, man. If not, I mean, you put up another 2 good years. I mean, he's definitely in that ace category as well. I mean, Pablo Lopez definitely has a talent to be an ace in this league, man. So I don't even know what the Twins are doing, man. I mean, when we started this conversation off, my reaction was just like, I don't even know how to feel about the Twins, man. I look at this projected lineup and it's just like, as a central team, I'm looking. I got to face Royce Lewis. I got to face the likes of Carlos Correa, even Jose Miranda, who obviously had a lot of hype going into this year after he broke that record of most consecutive hit at bats with a hit and stuff like that. And even Ryan Jeffers. I mean, a lot of these guys are straight masters, man. So it's just like, I don't understand as an owner why you're not investing in this team or
They're
even
two
trying to
moves away
develop.
from being World Series
Yeah, man.
contenders.
Like
And,
they,
and let's talk about their additions. They
yeah.
haven't signed a guy to a major league contract. They haven't traded for a major leaguer? They picked up Diego Cartaya because their catching situation is a dumpster fire if Ryan Jeffers goes down.
Yeah, man.
Uh, um, and then they signed Mike Ford to a minor league contract and Huascar Yanoa to a minor league contract.
I do
It's
want to
like,
capitalize on, I do like that flyer. I
yeah, I
think
do
was really
too,
good.
but it's a good flyer choice.
Yeah.
But as a team with this talent, we should be going out there and trying to sign Sean Manaea. We should be
Yeah.
going out there and trying to sign Jack Flaherty. We
Yeah,
should be
just
going out there.
yesterday, our last episode, man. We were talking about the Orioles, and I really think Luis Severino fits this ball club pretty good too,
Yeah,
man.
Severino
Luis
should have been
Severino
an
was
option.
not an expensive
If
option, man.
if they heard Jeffrey Springs was on the market, they should have been the
Yes,
first ones to call the
yes.
Tampa Bay Rays and see what they could give up to
What's the
get him.
asking price? Yeah,
They should
or
be in the running to trade for Luis Robert. I know it's interleague or
it's gonna cost a lot, man.
interdivision teams, but you should give them a call.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll
uh,
see.
I mean, we'll see what they want. Obviously, they're not getting any good calls, or else he would be dealt by now.
And
So
it's
so
and even if it's as recent as the 2024 or 2023 offseason going into the 2024 season, I mean, you let Sonny Gray walk too.
yeah,
So I mean, now looking back on it, we're talking about, calling the phone and stuff like that. Are you willing to go ahead and call the Cardinals? Hey man, I mean, are you willing to take on that salary? Because I mean, if you're willing to take on that salary that the Cardinals are it looks like they're shopping around, that they want to get off that money. I mean, why not call the Cardinals either, man? Bring back Sonny Gray. He obviously can perform out there in Minnesota. So why
or
not?
or buy in. Like this rotation is good enough to get you to the playoffs and
Yeah.
maybe make an ALCS run.
Hmm.
And if you mash your way, maybe make a World Series run. Go trade for Ryan Helsley. Go load up this bullpen. That's a solid bullpen, but it could be the best in the league if you add a couple
Yeah.
arms. Go get Ryan Helsley. Go sign some of these veterans that are free agents right now. I mean, go sign James Karinchak. Go sign some
Tanner
upside
Scott,
guys.
if you want to talk about making a super bullpen.
Yeah. I mean, Tanner Scott and Johan Duran fucking 102 every other inning. Good luck.
I mean,
With
Griffin
Griffin
Jocks,
Jacks,
yeah, and
Jesus
Cole
Christ.
Sands, Brock Stewart. I mean, all these guys throw hard, dog.
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
Like, yeah,
there's so much to dream on in this Twins team, and their owner refuses to make one or two moves that could put them over the top. And with that being said, you guys, Byron Buxton and Royce Lewis are made of glass. We understand this. So what do? You let Manny Margot walk,
Manuel
a,
Margot.
a depth outfielder who
Yeah.
provides decent glove and runs into baseballs every once in a while.
I don't want to be
Eh,
too harsh on that move because you do have Austin Martin on the bench, man.
right.
Austin Martin can fill out that.
And I'm this close to giving up on Austin Martin already.
Yeah,
I mean, I thought he was going to be a stud out of Vanderbilt.
yeah.
The implications were there that he wasn't, but I was a young kid and I just liked his swag with the
Yeah,
dragging of the bat to the plate and
yeah,
his glove over there at third base.
yeah.
And I know they have Walker Jenkins and Emmanuel Rodriguez on the verge of breaking through.
I mean,
So
you promote Brooks Lee this past offseason. It looks like he's going to be your everyday second baseman.
if he
Oh,
could give you a 105 WRC plus as a
yeah.
switch hitter with his glove and athleticism and ability to play everywhere, that'd be fantastic. This is what we're talking about. I'm mentioning guys that are good ball players that didn't even come to the thought of my mind right off the bat because their roster's solid, it's
Yeah.
talented, and they're this fucking close, and they just won't do it, man.
Yeah.
It makes me angry.
I mean, even if we go over the losses that they've had, man, I mean, you have good quality baseball players here. I mean, you have Carlos Santana, you let walk. You got Anthony Descalfani, who he does get injured pretty often, but when he's not, I mean, he's gonna throw innings for you. I mean, it's not gonna be bad innings. I mean, it's not gonna be great either, but
They give you a chance every
yeah,
every
you know what
fifth
I
day.
mean. Caleb Thibar, I mean, I guess you know what I mean. Max Kepler, like you said, whatever, you know what I mean. Kyle Farmer, I mean, bust. I mean, go ahead. And then Manuel Margot that you kind of touched off, and then Alex Kirilloff couldn't even.
Retired.
Yeah, he retired, man. So
Medically retired.
yeah,
Best of wishes to him.
yeah,
He was a solid prospect coming up, and I wish he could have stayed healthy and been able to play out his major league career. But best of luck to him.
yeah. But yeah, man. I mean, I think it's really hard for me to give teams
I'm gonna
F's
give
for
them
their.
an F.
But yeah, man, it looks like the Minnesota Twins.
Just
I
because
don't
of
know, man.
my personal bias towards them. I know I said I wasn't gonna keep that off the show, but I just can't. Like this team makes me angry, and
I kind of look at this rotation, man. I don't understand why you couldn't pick up anybody. I mean, Jack Flaherty's still there, so I mean, there's still time.
they're
But I
not
mean,
going to. They're
they
not.
should. They really should.
It's not a let's be realistic. They're not, brother. They're
Yeah,
not. They're not going to sign anyone.
I don't understand, bro. I really don't.
Go ask the freaking Mariners who need a bat for freaking Brian Wu or Luis Castillo. Please make a major leaguer to major
Anyone. I
leaguer
mean, it
contract
looks like Gilbert and Kirby are untouchables, but I mean, you still got Bryce Miller there available too. Call on any three of those
with
guys.
you know what I would understand with their prospects, go trade Buxton to the Mariners. I know it sounds crazy, right? Oh
Yeah,
my God, Buxton when he's on the field is undeniably one of the best talents in baseball,
yeah.
but he's never on the field, and the Mariners can dream on his bat.
You know
You
what's
guys,
crazy too is you're probably going to get a haul for Brian Buxton simply because of his
his
contract size
contract
too.
size, yeah,
Like you're
but
getting him for a long time, and he's not expensive.
what I'm saying is they could go get Castillo. Buxton and Castillo's contract don't definitely outweigh each other because Buxton I think is almost $8 million cheaper
Yeah,
if just off the top of my head. But you can also get Castillo for Buxton and then maybe a prospect, maybe something else to even bolster that system even more, and then flip those guys and replace Buxton for the now. I mean, there's so many options, but this team just won't do anything. So it just angers me.
kind of looking back at that Jose Barrios trade in 2021. I mean, you get Austin Martin, who hasn't worked out good, and then you get Simeon Woods Richardson. So, I mean, looking back at that trade, it's kind of like, damn, if you did have Jose Barrios still on this ball club, it's kind of like night and day. Honestly, it really is. Because then you throw in Jose Barrios as your four, and now you're looking at a rotation of Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, and Jose Barrios. And I mean, Chris Paddock, I like him as my five personally. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I mean,
he's solid.
Chris Paddock has a five. It's solid. I mean, it's no
They
knock to
should be
Simeon Woods
shopping Chris
Richardson.
Paddock though.
Yeah,
They should be shopping Chris Paddock, get his 8 million off the table or whatever. Go get a low level prospect who's 18 or 19 years old.
yeah.
Put that 8 million and go get a go get Jack Flaherty. But they're not gonna do any of that. So I don't even know why I'm dreaming. It just makes me angry, brother.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry to talk about Edward Julian too, man. I know you were high on him, but who even knows what he's gonna do this year?
He's gonna bounce back.
We'll
He's
see. I
gonna
mean,
bounce back.
I mean, inevitably one of these guys is gonna go
He's
down,
gonna bounce
so
back.
he's gonna get some playing time over there in Minnesota. But we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, hopefully something changes in the near future with the Minnesota Twins. But as Ryan said, he seems to be a little bit more in touch on the Minnesota side. But I'm gonna go ahead and agree with him, and it doesn't look like anything's changing anytime soon. So best of luck to the fans out there in Minnesota. But uh, the best thing I could say is I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry that you guys aren't doing much, man. And hopefully things change soon. But moving on,
Uh,
man, we'll go to the White Sox.
the worst team of all time. Home baby.
Historically, the White Sox future's looking bright, brother. I mean, I'd rather be a White Sox fan than a Twins fan right now. Let me tell you what. But busy offseason for them, man. I mean, whatever word you want to call it. I mean, they definitely been busy. I don't know if this kind of busy is good, but they definitely been busy out there,
No,
man.
it's good. It's good. It's
I mean,
exactly what they should be doing.
yeah, for sure. It's just like to the casual viewer, you're gonna hear these names and you're gonna be like, you know what I mean? Okay. But they took flyers on a lot of people, man. You bring Bobby Dahl back on a minor league contract with the invitation to spring training. So hopefully a change of scenery from Boston to Chicago, where there's literally no pressure over there, is good for him. He can hit baseballs, but can't field any type of position. So maybe he can do something over there. And then you take a flyer on Austin Slater for a major league contract worth 1.75 million for a year. He's gonna get some playing time. He's always been a good batter versus lefty, so we'll see what he does over there. And then you take Josh Rojas, formerly of the Seattle Mariners, on a 1 year deal worth 3.5 million. So Josh Rojas is going to be over there, probably plugging at third base, with Miguel Vargas going back to the outfield probably. So then you take a flyer on Brees Wilson, who never really proved really that much over there in Atlanta, but you take a flyer on him on a major league contract with just over $1 million at 1.05 for a year. And then you take Mike Talkman, who I think is a great addition to this
Good
team. He's
play.
gonna
Good
walk.
play.
I think he's a really good player on any ball club. I mean, he goes to Chicago to get some
I
run
can't
line
believe
time.
no other
Yeah.
team
I mean, I don't
offered him
know.
that
I mean,
contract.
maybe he just wants to play every day. No knock to that. I think Michael Talkman's really good. He's gonna run into some pop, and he walks with the best of them, man. So get on that. He plays decent defense, and then you take a flyer on Martin Perez or Martin Perez on a 1 year deal worth $5 million. Who I read a report the other day, or maybe an article that's saying that he was like the worst pitcher ever over there in Pittsburgh, and then he goes to San Diego and he pitches a little bit better. So I think it's going to be more replication of what he was doing over there in Pittsburgh on a non-contender. It seems like he needs that fire under his butt to perform a little bit better under the lights. But you take a flyer on him, he's going to throw you innings. He doesn't get hurt very often. And then I'll let you take it off. They have a lot of additions. I'll let you go.
Looks like they acquired Cam Boozer from the Red Sox. And then they also acquired Tyler Gilbert from the Phillies. Hold on.
All right, minus the interruption. I think you were talking about Tyler Gilbert or Cam Boozer.
Yes, one of the additions. Let me pull the list back up. Sorry. Um, and then obviously they added the big trade, where they traded Garrett Crochet, um, for Braden Montgomery, Kyle Teal, Chase Madroth, who we went through
Yeah, yeah, last one.
last
Yeah.
episode, and welcome in Gonzalez. And then they acquired Matt Dice for from the Cubs for cash, and Penn Murphy was a waiver pickup. Um, I just want to dive in because I don't think any of these moves are significant. They just filled out a lot of the roster holes.
Yeah, for sure. With
So
Major
so
League
people
talent.
played. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should just dive in and look at Braden Montgomery and and Kyle Teal. I'm huge on Braden Montgomery. Uh, Probably the highest out of anyone I know on him. Came out of Stanford, was a two-way guy his first 2 years at Stanford. Kind of settled in as a one-way guy at A&M his junior year of college. Um, but if we just look at his OPS by freshman, sophomore, and senior year, freshman year at Stanford, he OPS 957, hit 18 homers, um, stole six bags. Sophomore year, slight improvement with a 1072 OPS. And then his junior year, he showed off everything. 27 bombs in 61 games, OPS near 1200. Was just elite in the SEC, which is a tough conference to play in. I'd say it's similar to playing in Double A um, in the minors and putting up those numbers, granted with a metal bat, is super impressive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we haven't seen him play at all because he did injure himself. I think he broke his foot or something along those lines. Wasn't even able to play in Omaha for A&M. But when he was drafted, I'm surprised he fell that high,
Yeah.
far. I think his ceiling is super high. I think he could be a damn near. I don't want to say a 300, 400, 500 guy, but I want to say like 280, 370, and 500 slug kind of guy with solid defense. Um, doesn't really strike out a whole lot. Walks at a decent clip, and I think he's going to be a stud for the White Sox, and I'm really excited to see what he does in the future. Swing mechanics are off the charts. Beautiful swing. Really gets into his power through his swing. Um, and I'm just excited to see what he does.
Yeah, man. So you touched a little bit on Braden Montgomery. I mean, between him and JJ Weatherhole, I think those are the two steals of the draft for sure, man. It's just based off of where they got drafted at. But to touch base a little bit on Kyle Tillman, I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about Kyle too at the moment. He started the year off in AAA, and then he got demoted and got sent back down
No, he
to
started in
Double A.
Double A and
Nah,
got called up in Triple A.
I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Okay,
Yes.
I might have that backwards. But anyways, man, in AAA he had a 717 OPS, not great, but
Just 30 games.
yeah, just 30 games, small sample size, but even still, I mean, you can see how much Kyle Teal's worth if he's in that Garrett Crochet trade. You know what I mean? That the White Sox are willing to accept. Obviously, Brady Montgomery was the headliner, but Kyle Teal is also no slouch. He's definitely a catcher too. I don't know if he's always going to be a catcher, but as of right now, he is a catcher. We kind of talked about him in last episode, but Kyle Teal, I mean, he's still fairly young. I believe he's about 20, 22, 23. Yeah,
Yeah.
22. He was out of the first round out of University of
Virginia.
Virginia,
Yeah.
14th pick overall. So, I mean, his minor league stats, I mean, they're great. I mean, he's batting 301. He has an on-base percentage of 404. He's slugging 444 to give him an OPS of 848 in the minors for his career so far. And if you want to talk about college, I mean, they're even better. 343 batting average, 433 on base percentage with a 547 slug. Granted, you said it's a metal bats, but a 547 slug is still a 547 slug, man. With his college career OPS at a career 979, so he's definitely a guy you want to look out for, man. So they definitely got their two guys in what they were looking for in a trade for Garrett Crochet, who was obviously the hottest trade candidate in this offseason as well as this past season's deadline. So good move on them, man. I mean, I don't think they're going to get called up, fairly soon, but
I
they're
think
definitely
Kyle
guys
Teal
in
might be a
their system.
September guy.
Yeah, potentially. I think only because of positional strength. But
Yeah.
Brandon Montgomery, like you said, he hasn't even made his minor league debut yet. So definitely not this year. Maybe next year. Maybe. You know what I mean? But we'll see. We'll definitely keep some flyers on Brandon Montgomery. But remember the name now because that kid's going to be a stud, man. And then yeah, to touch based on what they've lost. They lose Yohan Moncada to free agency. I don't think they pick up their option. So he's a free agent still on the market. You lose Garrett Crochet in that trade, and then you lose Mike Clevenger, who really wasn't available to begin with, and then Chris Flexen, just a guy who pitched innings for the White Sox. Would you replace him with Martin Perez, and they what started it? Oh, Brees Wilson and Martin Perez. So those are the guys who are going to eat innings for them this year, and then you lose Michael Soroka, who really wasn't in your rotation to begin with. He seemed like he was a back half bullpen arm. a couple spot starts here and there, but for the majority of his time in Chicago, he was pitching out there in the bullpen. And then you non-tender Gavin Sheets, just seems like no one's going to pick that guy up. I think his run is over. To be honest with you, I hope not. But yeah, Gavin Sheets never really proved anything in the majors. So you non-tender him, and then you non-tendered Eniel De Los Santos, who you got from the Yankees at the deadline for Tim Hill. So you trade those guys. You non-tender him. He's on the team, and then you lose Dominic Leone, and then Nicky Lopez. You lose him as well because he elected free agency, and then you lose Max Stassi, but then you immediately lose Max Stassi, and you replace him with Matt Dice. So I mean that's just a wash in my opinion. But as far as the White Sox and their future moving forward, man, I mean it's hard to replicate what they did last year. I definitely think they're going to get better.
They're going to win more than 41 games. I
Yeah,
guarantee you
I think
that.
they're going to get better, man. I mean, they're definitely not someone that I'm going to be tuning in to watch. I mean, other aside from, I guess when that's the only game on, but I really don't have anybody to look at on that team. I mean, there's no really electric pitchers that you want to tune in for
Casual.
their starts or anything like that.
Casual.
I mean, if they
Drew
play the
Thorpe.
Yankees, I'll play them. Oh, I
Noah,
guess Drew
no,
Thorpe.
Noah Schultz
I
going to come up this year.
mean,
Colson
Colson
Montgomery.
Montgomery. Yeah, so I mean, they definitely have
Hagen
some talent
Smith
over
could be
there.
up this year. And by the way, Hagen Smith's
Smith,
slider is
yeah, disgusting.
freaking phenomenal. Edgar Caro is going to be up this year, I think. He
I
might
mean,
split
I watched
time.
Robert play. You know what I
He
mean?
might split time with Kyle Teel. Kai Bush, I think, came up last season. And then the guy we talked about, Chase Madroth, I think he might be up too. Um,
Okay.
so there's
Picking
some guys to
walks. That's
watch.
valuable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some guys to watch in their system. Samuel Zavala too, an outfielder, a little lefty. I think he might come up this season too. The Padres actually were the ones to sign him out of Venezuela about 3 years ago when he was 17. So he's just getting to 20 years old now. Um, so we'll see what he can do. He's a good on base guy too, solid runner,
Yeah.
and decent defender out there in center field. So we'll see if he gets the call up. He'd be super young, but there's some guys to watch in their system and then in their on their major league team too. So
I mean, we'll see if Robert stays. I mean, I don't think he will. But I
yeah,
also don't see a lot of teams like meeting that asking price, although they should. It's just Luis Robert's kind of in a weird spot, man. He hasn't really played a lot of games lately. But we'll see if Luis Robert's on the opening day roster. But that's definitely a superstar, at least superstar quality talent over there in Chicago. And then you still have Andrew Benintendi. He definitely didn't blossom in that first year of Chicago, but I mean, he still has good bat to ball. He's decently maybe an above average defender at best, but he's still Andrew Benintendi. I mean, he's still a major league baseball player. He's definitely at that caliber as well. But Andrew Vaughn, I mean, we'll see how long his run is still. I mean, he still really hasn't put it together completely, but he's not by any means bad. And then we'll see what Miguel Rojas gets. You got Miguel Rojas at the deadline if you're a Chicago White Sox fan for that Michael Kopech in that 3-team deal that sent Tommy Edman to um, to the Dodgers. So you still have Miguel Vargas that you want to keep your eyes on, see if he puts it together. He's always been projected to be a pretty good hitter out there. Traditionally, I think he was a second baseman, third baseman, but now he looks like he's your projected designated hitter. So take that pressure away from him off the field. Maybe he starts slapping the ball around a little bit better. Nothing but the best I send over there to Miguel Vargas. But then you have Corey Lee still, man. I think Corey Lee's okay. I mean, he's just a catcher, man. But I don't really know what much to say on the White Sox. I mean, if I had to give them a grade, I mean, I definitely am in that C plus B range just because of what you're able to pull off on that Garrett Crochet trade. With what you've been given as a Chicago White Sox over there, I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that, to be honest with you, man. So it's not a time to sign any free agents, although they did just to fill out that roster to put on some major league talent out there on the field. But yeah, I think the future is real bright. I think it's really at least brighter than the Angels if I had to compare them to a team. You know what I mean? I think the Chicago White Sox system is damn near it's really good, man. So definitely within the next like at least 2 years, man. I mean, maybe then he could be a 500 team, but I don't see it happening anytime soon, brother. So I'll go ahead and pass the mic off to you.
funny story about Corey Lee, by the way. I was at spring training this past
Yeah,
season. We were at a Padres versus White Sox game. They didn't play the game, by the way. It fucking started raining cats and dogs,
yeah,
but they were warming up pregame. And Corey Lee comes out with the starting pitcher for the day. I don't remember who it was, but I was in the outfield on the fence, just trying to, t dab guys up. I wasn't looking for autographs or anything.
Yeah.
But Corey Lee starts walking out of the bullpen, and I noticed Lee on the back of his jersey, and I yelled, "Corey!" across the field, and he came over and dabbed me up. So shout out Corey Lee for real.
Shout out
That's my
Corey Lee,
guy.
brother. Shout out Corey Lee, man. He's playing in the majors, man. Can't knock the
Yeah.
dude. He's playing in the majors. He's decent, But yeah, man. Go ahead and give him your grade, brother.
I'm gonna give them a B to B plus as well.
Yeah,
I think they killed that Garrett Crochet deal.
for sure, man.
I think Braden Montgomery's a better prospect than Marcelo Meyer, truthfully. And
Is he
I
better than Roman
think
Anthony?
no, obviously not. But I think they got I don't think I knew they weren't gonna get Roman Anthony and Kristen um Campbell back from the Red Sox, so I think this was the second best deal they could have gotten. So good
I
on
mean,
them.
if you try to mock it to another team, I mean,
I don't see them
yeah, I don't
getting any
see him
better
betting
talent.
anything better. Not, I mean,
So
unless a team is willing to give up a prospect of a caliber of Christian Campbell, I don't think anyone else is willing to give up a prospect type of caliber player in Roman Anthony. So I don't think really anyone matches anything with the Red
better
Sox
than
are ever
your
send up. And honestly, I really don't see it as an overpay either. I think it's the right deal. I just think the ceiling is so high on a guy like Brady Montgomery that it may seem like it's a little bit worse than what it is.
and the
But
floor is high on Kyle
yeah,
Teel too.
yeah, but
High floor guy.
I think it's an even trade for both sides, especially.
We'll
I
see.
mean, you guys already know kind of how I feel about Garrett Crochet, but in what I'm saying right now, I'm factoring the variable that Garrett Crochet goes to the Red Sox and replicates what he did this past season with the White Sox, and we're gonna look back at this trade. And honestly, I think it's a less of a gamble on the White Sox side than it is on the Red Sox side. Rather, to be honest with you, I think Brandon Montgomery and Kyle are going to be productive Major League Baseball players when it's their time.
Yes, sir. I agree. So I think that wraps up this episode, man,
Yeah, man. So we'll go ahead and get this posted as soon as we can, and then look out later this week. We're definitely trying to get at least another episode in, if not two,
for the AL West.
ALS, and then we'll transition over to the National League and the National League East. But the next episode we'll start off with the
Hopefully
Astros.
Roki Sasaki news too, where
Oh
he's
yeah, for
going
sure,
by
man.
then.
Hopefully Bregman news, Santander, Pete
Something.
Alonso,
Yeah.
something, brother, because we still got a lot of hot free agents out there on the market that still haven't signed, with only 26 days left remaining until pitchers and catchers report. So hopefully we don't pull another Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery type deal, as well as JD Martinez, where they don't even sign until spring training. So definitely look out for that. If you want to give any predictions on any where those guys are going to sign,
Not right now.
nah.
I'm just waiting for them to sign it. Come on, man. We're in the dog days of the offseason.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's January, brother. But that'll wrap it up, man. It's nice talking to you guys, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Peace.